Hello everyone, it's your girl Lala and I'm back with another video. So today's video is going to be a review slash recap on Real Housewives of Atlanta season 14 episode 1. So we are at the premiere episode of the season for Real Housewives of Atlanta, the long awaited episode and season premiere. So let's get into the video. So as you guys all saw tonight, which we already knew prior to the actual premiere, that Cynthia and Portia would no longer be on the show. We already knew before the premiere even came on that Sheree would be back. And we got a new cast member, which is Senya, who's an Olympic track star, and Marlo finally got a peach. Marlo has finally gotten a peach. I mean, Cynthia had to leave, Portia had to leave, and Nene had to leave. But she finally got a peach. Okay, Marlo finally got a peach. So let's see. Throughout the season, I guess we'll see whether or not Marlo had earned her peach. And if it was a rightfully given peach, we'll see what Marlo brings, which I'm sure Marlo won't disappoint in the season. Marlo, even without a peach, brought a lot to the show in the past seasons. So I don't think she's going to disappoint us at all. So, but we shall see. So we start off and we see Kenya is at the studio practicing. I don't know why Kenya wants us to think that her butt is real. I'm really not sure why. Every time I see Kenya in something fitted that shows her full figure, I'm just like, Kenya, can we stop with this that you didn't get work? This isn't a butt job. Just stop, please. I digress, but moving on. So shortly after, Candy and Marlo joins in on the scene as well with Kenya in the studio. So Marlo's talking about, the billionaire she dated. We get to that part. Candy's like, that was over a decade ago. As they're having this conversation, Sheree walks in and joins them. Sheree tells the girls that Tyrone is home. Remember Tyrone? He's home. The girls asked her, they get to the point where they're asking her, well, what was the sex like? And so Sheree says, it was quick. Then shortly after that, Sheree tells the girls they're practicing abstinence. I'm confused, Sheree. Now he just came home and you've been waiting for him all this time, and then you give him some, and then y'all practicing abstinence? Sheree, I'm confused. And then you talk about to see if it's real or something, because, I guess since he's been in jail all this time, and, I guess she wants to make sure that what he's saying wasn't just like blowing smoke or whatever. But, I'm confused, sis, because don't you think if that was your motive, maybe you shouldn't have given him any when he came home and figured that all out first? But I don't know. Who am I? So then we move on. Kenya shared that she's not fully divorced yet. She claims she is done. She is done with Mark. She's had enough. She's done. So we'll see. I really hope that their divorce does come through, soon, because it does seem like this is a bad space for her to be in with this, wanting to be out of this, and it's still ongoing, and just so many different things that it's like in a process that Mark has done. It seems like she just wants to have this finalized to move on with her life, and so it's kind of holding, I guess, things up in some way for her. So wish her the best with that, with her divorce. So Candy then shares that Marlo, makes a comment or something about, it's her and Todd having sex all the time or something. So, Candy then shared that her and Todd are not having all this sex. She they be tired and be falling asleep. She said something about we be watching our favorite shows, and then next thing you know, we be falling asleep or something. Listen, all right, Candy. Oh, and then Marlo tells her, well, how about you? Well, she don't tell it to Candy. She's on the side clip like, well, how about you get rid of two of those mini jobs and use that time to have sex with Todd? And not Marlo over here trying to give somebody relationship advice. We ain't seen Marlo with nobody in the last 7 years that we've been seeing her on this show, right? But anyway. So then we move on to the next scene where we see Marlo with her nephews being a momty, which is a mom and an auntie together. So Marlo was taking care of her nephews. Her sister is incarcerated. And so Marlo has her nephews, I guess, until her sister is released or however that is going to play out. So it's nice to see this side of Marlo with her nephews and just kind of like seeing her be a more, nurturing, caring person. It's nice to see this side of Marlo. So moving on, then we get to, now we see Drew and Ralph. They're in the car riding. And not when Ralph asks Drew if she uses the same glue for her wig and her eyelashes. Ralph, what? And why? And he's like, I'm curious. Why, sir? Why are you curious? You don't have a wig or eyelashes to glue. So why are you curious either way? Ralph, stop it. So next thing you know, they get to telling stories of their glory high school athletic days. Ralph done told us he was a top player and sat the bench in the same 2 seconds. Which one was it, Ralph? Which one? But we see that it was the bench. But Drew tries to bring it in for him because Drew says, hey, but let's not forget he did get drafted or he did get picked for a D1 school. So, she tries to help him out and give him a little points there. I guess, he got picked for a D1 school, but I don't know because he was on the bench. But hey, anyway. So now Drew and Ralph, they finally arrive to their workout. So they meet up with Sanya and her husband. So I'm going to need Drew to sit down with this. She could have been a track star. Drew, stop it. You and your hubby going to stop. Y'all going to stop with these glory day dreams. Because obviously y'all both thought y'all were much better athletes than y'all were. But anyway, so now we get over here to, Sanya now. That was not nice. Why she said, I'm trying to figure out how we supposed to drop it with Drew and Drew can't drop a squat. So Celia says this after Drew starts working out and she sees that I guess Drew is not in as good a shape as she thought Drew would be, or, I guess she had different expectations or whatever for Drew working out. And so she makes this little shady comment. And Drew is also talking about her, program that she started, which was the Drop It with Drew, which is a weight loss program that she started for, for other people as well as herself, because she was looking to drop weight and get in shape and things like that. And so she has a program, which I believe she said something like 21 days or something like that. And you can kind of like drop weight and transform yourself. And so this was the shady comment that Celia made, regarding, her Drop It with Drew program that she has. Sanya, I got my eye on you, Sanya. Got my eye on you. So next, Drew shares they're still working through some marriage issues. So apparently, hubby Ralph hired a woman to help him with a book. This woman later on, Drew saw messages from her asking if Drew's husband wanted a massage. So this was an assistant that was hired to help Ralph with the book. And later on, started messaging him things, and a message came, and Drew saw a message about asking him if he wanted a massage. So, they didn't dive into this whole thing here. We see Kenya in this scene. Kenya is home cooking, and interestingly, Brandon, her dance partner, is there at her house. What is this about? I mean, Brandon went and he's answering the doorbell and all, and he looks very comfortable. Definitely looks like Brandon spent some time here. Wonder what's going on. So anyway, he goes and he answers the door, and guess who it is at the door? Well, Marlo then sent some girl over with a laptop to give Kenya and all the girls their invite to her event. So Kenya, in all of her Kenya shady fashion, she done shaded the hell out of Marlo's invite. She like, Marlo want to be all grand, but sent a computer over. Basically, she like, it's a no for me. So she said, tell her to spend a little more money, and she missed the mark. Kenya can't help but give you shade, okay? She can't help herself. So now we're at Sanya. She's home with her family. Sanya's mom looks really, really good. I was like, wow, her mom is a very attractive woman. She looks really good. So we find out here that Sanya and her husband met in college. Sanya said she saw him and she knew she wanted him and she went for it basically, and they've been together since. So then later on they get into a conversation about having kids. So her husband seems to want a daughter or another kid, and Sanya ends up responding with like, well, this is what almost broke us last time. And he's like, well, if we don't you think this can break us now? And I'm just sitting here like, I'm lost. This was so out of left field, number one. And number two, why are we having these conversations in front of our parents? Like, her parents are there. Why are we having this conversation? Like, I was so lost. That just seemed just like a very odd moment in tonight's episode to me. But moving on. So now we're at Drew's home. Drew is having a meal prep launch. So she's launching a meal prep service. And she's invited Sanya and Candy over for feedback on the food, because she's like, she knows that Sanya, she eats this kind of stuff all the time. And then, with Candy having OLG, having restaurants and things, she figures that these two would be good to give her feedback, and she knows they're both going to be honest. So she has them over. Now, when Candy comes over and Candy's at the door, I'm a little taken aback with Drew's assistant, Anthony, because he was really on one when he met Candy. Like, what was that about? What happened to hello, nice to meet you? Like, what was all the extra about? I don't know. I guess it's more we'll see with this, or just more with Anthony, because that was a lot. That was a lot at that moment. So, moving on. So Drew shares that she had a vasectomy. I'm sorry, Drew, Lord, not a vasectomy. Drew shares she had a hysterectomy, okay? So she shares that, and she says that, while she was having a hysterectomy done, she was just like, well, can you go over, can you just kind of do some other things while you're in there? And so she ends up having a mommy makeover as well. And she says she dropped 25 pounds on her plan, etc. And she talked about how, she's been, eating the things that she's, I guess, going to have in her meal prep and working out and, things like that. So Candy is like, she's on the side clip like, well, you still look pretty thick. And Sanya like, I feel like she's not keeping it real with us. Now, I will say, when they were showing the before and afters on Drew's clips, I was expecting a little more of progress in regards to the stomach, only because she had said that she had the mommy makeover. So I was expecting for it to be like, a really slim trimmed waist, only because of that. If it was just done naturally, she looks great, like it definitely looks great for progress that is being naturally, where you're working out and you're eating right. So no shade or anything like that there with that. But if it was actually a cosmetic procedure done, I think the results should have looked a little better. But anyway, so now we have where Sanya brings up the whole assistant thing from when they were at the workout. First off, I'm like, Sanya, Candy is there as well. So how do you even know that this was discussed with Candy, or she even wants Candy to know this? But okay, beyond that, she's having a conversation. So this is, that conversation about the one who texts Ralph about coming to give him a massage. So as they're beginning this conversation, Ralph soon walks in. So next thing you know, Ralph is now explaining his side because he's saying to them, well, what version of the story is she giving you or whatever? So now he takes it upon himself because I guess he needs to explain his version. He needs to let them know something. All right. So, he starts, explaining everything. So he's talking about at the time his back was hurting. Okay. All right. We get your back was hurting. So then he says that, because he's kind of defended in the sense of, no, his back was hurting. And so she ordered a massage therapist, whatever for me. Okay. So, but Ralph, though, how we get to where her asking if you wanted a massage, which sounds like from her, though. I'm going to need you to make that make sense because as an assistant, yeah, she could set you up with a massage therapist and everything else. She could set you up with rehabilitation therapy and all of that stuff. But why is she asking if you wanted a massage from her? And so, when he's explaining or whatever that, that he finally gets to, because Drew steps in like, no. She asked you if you wanted her to give you a massage. So Candy's like, listen, cut through all this chase. What was your reply? Like, what did you say to her? What was your reply? Man, let me tell you something. That daggone Ralph, he said everything except what his actual reply was. He just went all in circles and everything else except for what his actual reply was. Then he said something finally about, he replied saying something like, well, like I'm a guy to her. What? So Candy and Sonya are like, oh, we know what that means. So you a guy. It ain't just going to be a massage. So basically they were saying that kind of response gives a woman the impression that you're trying to say, well, I'm a guy, so if you're trying to give me a massage, it's just not going to be a massage. So inappropriate. First of all, I'm not understanding this whole thing because, first of all, it should have been Ralph checking his assistant, number one, I am a married man. It's inappropriate, number one. Two, you are my assistant, which is now ex-assistant, because at this point there is a line that has been crossed and your assistant needs to be cut, period. Because for her to, but you know what, we also have to look on the other side of this as to why did she feel comfortable to say these things to Ralph and to ask that? Because obviously something inappropriately, whether it's conversations, innuendos, whether it's flirting, but obviously something is going on that shouldn't be going on, because his assistant should not feel comfortable or should not think that she can ask him about giving him a massage. Listen. Listen. Okay. Listen. Let me tell you something. Drew, get a handle on that. Get a handle on that. Because we already saw last season with Ralph out here claiming that, he checked into some hotel for some 2 days or a weekend or something, to get away, that Drew still don't know what hotel he was at, what town, state, city, or anything else she still don't know about. So Drew, you better get a handle of Ralph in a quick, fast hurry. So moving on. So then we get to Sheree. She's on the phone with Marlo. And I'm just looking and I'm like, is it me or does something look different with Sheree's face? I don't know. I'm getting Botox, fillers or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I definitely think something looks really, really different and weird with her face. But anyway. So now we finally get to Marlo's event. The place was fabulous. It looked like a really nice, fabulous, and chic event. We saw that Angela Simmons was out, light-skinned Keisha, Alonzo Arnold. So it looks like, she invited some of the Atlanta socialites and the Atlanta movers and shakers in like the reality, TV space and all that, whatever. So, that was cool. So we then get to a part where Sheree finally meets Ralph and Drew. And so she says, I heard so much about you guys. And so Ralph is like, I hope good things. Girl, the struggle for Sheree to lie and say, instead of, I guess, whatever it was she heard, because obviously it wasn't anything good by the look on her face and the struggle in that lie. So we know it wasn't good. So next we have Kenya. She shows up. Kenya shows up looking fabulous. Kenya shows up looking like it was her event, okay? She showed up looking like she was the star of the evening. But of course, in Kenya fashion, we get to the shade. Because Kenya done said, you rented out a ballroom with no ball. And then Senior is as shady talking about the spelling of Marlo's, the name of her store, brand, or whatever it is. And, Sonya's talking about, there should be an apostrophe or something, that should be there or whatever. Just totally just being shady. Totally being shady. And so then we have Drew, who invites Kenya to come over and get a drink with her. So Drew's talking to Kenya. She's talking about their rocky start from, the prior, back in the prior season and their prior meetings and things like that. And she's telling Kenya that she kind of wants to make amends and start over. So Kenya accepts. We see Kenya here being a much different person in this scene, I guess, with, just accepting a Drew's, olive branch to kind of move, to start over and move past what they've had in the past. So we'll see how that goes. So we finally have Marlo who comes out. Marlo comes out. She greets the ladies. And so now she's answering, questions that the ladies have. And so Drew says, well, how does it work? Can I just, place an order? Marlo says, when was your last gig? Are you still in the industry? This says she's just playing. Marlo, we know you are not playing. Why are you being that shady towards Drew? That wasn't nice, Marlo. So Marlo did say, she says on a little side, side clip or whatever that, this event cost her about $40,000. All right, Marlo, you better go ahead with your $40,000 event. But she then is very, very confident that her $40,000 will easily make her $120,000 with the level of clientele she's going to get in that's going to want to rent the items and, the publicity, since she has, the bloggers there as well. And, these fashion people. So she thinks her $40,000 is well worth the investment. I hope so, Marlo, because $40K for an event for one night, that's a steep bill. So I hope you get returning your investment, Marlo. So moving on. So now where Marlo comes out and she's now in her second outfit. Not Sheree saying she looks like the candy her grandmother used to give her in church to stay quiet. I cannot. I cannot. And the part that made it more hilarious is because when they put that picture of the scene of the candy, y'all see the dress and the candy look alike. Sheree was onto something, because let me tell you, that candy wrapper and that dress looked quite similar. I tell you, the shade of it all. And so now we have Sheree and Sanya pulls Marlo away. They pull her away to the side, and they're like, people are complaining. Where are the seats? They thought it was going to be models. Wasn't Sanya the main one besides Kenya talking about Marlo's event and had the most to say and the most shade? Excuse me, Sanya? Okay. So now, as you guys saw previously throughout the night, people did have questions, but the only ones who were really, really shady with their questions was Sanya and Kenya were the two that were really shady with it. Everyone else just seemed to be curious, really, like, how the event worked, because I think they honestly thought that it was going to be more of a fashion show style, and they weren't clear as to like if the items that were out were items that were like that Marlo had worn. They weren't really they I think honestly weren't kind of sure about all of the details of the stuff. I think they were like really curious. Now, when it came to Sanya and Kenya, that wasn't curiosity. That was pure shade. Okay, so they were the two that were really bringing all of the shade. So now we see where Candy is sitting with Drew and Kenya, and so now Candy asked if she could talk about the husband assistant thing that had happened. So Candy is like, oh, you want to see? I could pull up the picture. I could pull it up right here. So Candy pulls up a picture and reads a message from the assistant off of her social media page. First of all, like, how did Candy find the assistant? Like, I guess it wouldn't be that hard, but I don't know. I just think this is a little odd that Candy already had, looked up the assistant and had the assistant's, social media together on deck. It was just kind of like, well, because if you guys remember when she was talking when Drew was telling her and Candy and Sanya at Drew's house, Candy was questioning and asking, well, what's the assistant's name? What's the assistant's name? It seemed like Drew didn't want to tell her the assistant's name, so I don't know. It seemed like she wasn't, she wasn't going to reveal that. So I don't know. So I don't know if Drew later on revealed it to her or if Candy did her own researching and digging or what. But sis definitely found out who the assistant was and pulled up the page, okay? So after Candy reads the message, Drew's kind of like, well, wait, do you think that message was for me? So Candy's like, I think it was kind of weird, but how would she know? We just had this conversation about her. And how would she? Like, how would she know? Is it a coincidence? Or is that damn Ralph talking? Is that Ralph still having conversations with his assistant? Is that what's going on? Because, that message did seem to kind of, and Candy said it was around the same time they had the conversation and everything. So I don't know. I hope the messenger isn't the man you're laying next to every night. I do hope that's not the case. So moving on. Now Marlo comes over and she checks Kenya. This is after, Sheree and Sanya done, gave her an earful of what all the comments were that was circulating around at the event. So she comes over, she checks Kenya. Kenya's like, well, why are you just directing this towards me? And then next thing you know, Marlo had smoke for the rest of the girls after that. Then the rest of the girls got it. She says, she even gets to Drew, and she goes over to Drew, and she says that she doesn't expect Drew to understand, but the well-traveled girls going to Kenya and Candy, I guess she has those expectations of them. Well, come on now, Marlo. I think Drew had the least to say out of everybody, and she wasn't even really being shady, so why you gave all that smoke to Drew? I don't think Drew really deserved all that smoke. She got into Drew's French roll and everything. I don't think that was right. That smoke should have went straight to Kenya and Sanya. That's who deserved all of that smoke. So then Candy is like, well, we all had a little something to say, which is one thing I like about Candy. Candy will be pretty honest and upfront about what she said. And she will kind of be a bit honest about how something happened. And I do like that about Candy. So, once again, Candy's like, we all had a little something to say. Then Candy goes into, what it is that she had questions about. So Sanya finally jumps in and says, I said it. Like, girl, you had the most to say, and then you went and told Marlo what everyone else said, and you said, without telling her that it was you who everything. And so in this whole thing, we find out that the Candy is asking, well, how does this work? How much is the rental and, everything? Because now Marlo gets into the fact that, it's basically you're renting the items for a day with, I think she said like a maximum of 7 days or something like that. And so, she tells her that it's 25% of the cost of the item per day. What? Marlo, are you, so let me get this straight. You buy a designer item that you now rent to people for 25% a day. Well, 25% of the cost a day. I don't know if that makes sense. Why you just don't go buy the item? Like, why am I renting this item from you that you done worn? It's a worn item. Listen, you know what? I don't know. Because she did say that, if an item is $10,000, it would be 25% of that cost. So, I don't know. Maybe in this world, that makes sense. Listen, I don't know. She got a whole business plan behind it and a whole nine. So, listen, I guess she done researched something or she knows something we don't know. So, I don't know. But then Marlo goes on and says that the event didn't cost her more than a Birkin bag. She tells Candy it was light work is what it was. But you just told us that this event was $40,000. So, which Birkin bag you talking about? So, you saying that because when we see the clips, we see prices of like $10,000 Birkin bags. So I don't know if you meant 4 of those or you meant that other high Birkin bag that's at 40. I don't know. But anyway, I know that was a lot on that one event, and I hope you get your money back, and I hope it was worth it because that was an expensive event there for that one night. So moving on. So next thing you know, so Marlo is saying something and then she mentions, her boys, which is her nephews. So Kenya, in all of her Kenya shady fashion, she asked Marlo if the boys go to private school. So Marlo said, no. Did you go to private school? Kenya said, no. She said, oh, and you're so intelligent. Then asked Candy, did you go to private school? Candy said, no. Marlo said, and you're filthy rich. She then asked Drew, who said she went to public and private. Then Marlo said, and you're not as successful. No, you didn't, Marlo. I cannot. The shade, let me tell you something. The shade on Real Housewives of Atlanta is unmatched. The reading, the shade, listen, these ladies are unmatched, okay? Unmatched. And so now just my thoughts on a couple of things that I saw that people are making mention of about Kenya, right? So I see that people are saying that, we're seeing a new happy Kenya, that it seems like she's, less drama filled and all. I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing it at all. She still seems like her shady self to me. And she exhibited that to me tonight in Marlo's event. She had the most to say. All the negatives were shady comments from the start. I mean, she started with the invitation, even from the invitation, it was the comments about, she mixed the mark and sitting the computer and wanting to be so grand. So it was the shady comments from that start. It was the shady comments from the moment she arrived, the ballroom with no ball and, asking about, the models and the fashion shows, and then making the comments about, she probably gets paid, to go on dates and things like that, basically calling her, an escort. I mean, the entire night, Kenya had nothing but negative comments, comments to say. So I'm sorry, I don't see where all of this new Kenya people are seeing. I'm gonna have to see more because I really don't see it. She seems like the same shady Kenya to me. And then also with Sanya, so far I am not liking Sanya at all so far. She seems to be very shady and very catty to me this far. So far. I mean, we will obviously see as the time go on. But from the comments at the gym, with Drew saying about, how we supposed to drop pounds with Drew, and Drew can't drop and do a squat, and then all of the comments that she was making, at Marlo's event about the event as well. She was right there, but like besides Kenya, she was next in line with all of the shady comments. And I'm just like, I mean, why? And from what we see, and I mean, it doesn't look like, Sanya has a gripe or anything with Marlo, or Drew. It seems like her and Drew had already been pretty familiar, and this is how they started this, friendship or whatever it is that they've started. So I'm just like really side-eyeing Sanya, because I just think you coming in real shady. You coming in real hot and real shady. So, but guys, that concludes the recap for the season 14 Real Housewives of Atlanta premiere for this season. So until next time, toodles.